That siren and that riff can only mean one thing. That's right. We are back with another podcast style thing, or some kind of thing, or whatever this is, whatever you want to call this thing, where I just talk shit about Muse and general music, because I am going to do some more about other artists at some point. At some point, that could mean anything. That could mean something in the next 10 years, maybe. But yeah, I skipped over Will of the People, the release of Will of the People, the song. But Killer Be Killed? I need to say something. That's not to say that I hated Will of the People. We'll get on to that in a second now and all that sort of stuff. But, so, the goal of this is for me to just talk and react and to explain my thoughts on the song. So try and delve deeper into my own opinions on the production side of things and where I feel the lyrics have gone and a few bits and pieces like that. Now, I like a complete amateur. I can't even play the bloody spoons, let alone anything else. But, you know, as an avid music listener and an audiophile, for quite a while, especially over Muse, and having criticised a lot of their production over the years and other stuff, yeah, it's time for me to get my ego out there again, like I did with Compliance and Won't Stand Down, and talk about Kill or Be Killed. So, how did we get to where we are? Kill or Be Killed. The fourth... Well, is it the fourth single? I think it's the fourth single, right? I saw some people talking in the Discord whenever I was looking through the leaks yesterday, or to try and find leaks, being like, oh, well, I don't know, it's not like the official kind of song because they were going to do Liberation or something like that, so whatever. To me, it's the fourth single. I'm pretty sure I saw Muse, didn't Muse tweet, oh yeah, you asked for it, so the next single from One of the People is Kill or Be Killed. I mean, you know, whatever, I guess. It is what it is, but we got here from it being played live on June 4th at Rock Am Ring, and then being played live all summer in the encore slot next to Man with a Harmonica and Nice of Sidonia. And I'd say it has taken the fandom by storm quite a bit, as usually happens whenever Muse go rock. I mean, you saw it Won't Stand Down. Not as much as I would expect for Won't Stand Down, but that was probably because of the verses and all that. But this certainly has those feels of the older Muse to really get people up in arms in a good way. So I'm trying to figure out, I haven't really planned out how exactly I'm going to do this. So, you know, this is all winging it. So this is all genuine emotion and talking about what I feel when I feel it, instead of trying to make it a bit too overproduced, as some people seem to be claiming that this song is, and I will strongly disagree with that. Strongly, especially considering where Muse have been and where they've been in their careers, even in the fan favorite albums, and how horribly or overproduced they have been. But I don't know. Let's get into the song a bit, shall we? I guess. Let's get into the song and pick up where we left off after the Kill or Be Killed, and just trail into the first verse as I try and talk through a bit more of this, and then get some feelings out. Hard cut, hard stop. So I guess let's have a look at the lyrics here. So yeah, cornered, I'm exhausted with fear, our loving and passion dissolved. So, you know, I really like the cornered, I'm exhausted with fear line. I think that's actually one of Matt's best lines for evoking a general fear for the protagonist, or whatever the subject of any of these songs are, whether it be himself or anyone else. It really starts off the song strong, and I feel like this again points to how Matt has actually matured finally with some lyrics, and also like devolved himself in a way towards what he used to be too. So it's an interesting mix of a more mature attitude and him almost being in touch with his former self, the old Muse, the Muse that we used to go crazy about and all that. Like, I'll get into more of why in a bit, but like the start of this with the lyrics and all that, and this verse, and I love this verse quite a bit, are a really harken back to late Absol era, going into Black Holes. Very much late 2004 throughout the entirety of 2005, at least whenever they were touring and all that. This song just drips with that type of Muse stuff. Pretty much whenever they did Debased Mason's Grog, the original Grand Omega Boss, before that got changed around and moved about with different bits and pieces before going on the album as Assassin and then on Nights as the B-side, Grand Omega Bosses. So yeah, it's a great start. It's a strong start. It's something that Matt has definitely struggled with for quite a while, but he's really hit a stride in this album. I don't know whether like what happened over lockdown to keep this going, but now that we're 4 songs in, and the worst of those 4 songs has been Will of the People, and that is still one of their better thematic and lyrical songs in several albums. It's really nice to have that. And it's really nice to have that pull with Muse again, where, like, you're not going to get deep lyrics. I've talked about this in both of the videos with Compliance and Will of the People, or not Will of the People, Won't Stand Down. You're not going to get deep lyrics from Muse. You're not. You might look into it at some point, but like even the lyrics that a lot of people point to as being deep are generally a bit shit. Well, that's a bit harsh. I suppose over the last number of albums, it's not really, but like, it's rare for me to like. Again, I'll use what I've said before. I would not get a tattoo with Muse lyrics on them because I don't find them to be that deep. That's not to say you can't connect with them and can't like find something relatable to them. I'm not coming to Muse for like some deep philosophical look and things. I'm looking for like just a cool or fun take or an interesting take on things, and like a song that like is relatable. Like Map and Automatique doesn't really have anything too deep. It's pretty cliche across the board for like a lot of what Matt sings in Map and Automatique, but it's my favorite song because I can really grip to it, and it's like something I feel a lot. So like Muse are more about the feel rather than like being like the thinking man's lyrics. And that that comes across as condescending, but it's really not, because there are very few bands really that are deep thinking lyrically, and I think that Muse like get a lot of flack because they have had a lot of bad songs, but even their like average to better lyric songs get a lot of flack that they don't really deserve. But it's probably only because of the company they keep. But it's like these songs in this album have really been no worse than like 95% of music. They really haven't, and I think that people are just being harsh on Matt's lyrics at this point for the sake of it. There's so much to pick at with different bits and pieces with Muse over the years, and I just find it boring to continue on talking about it, which is why I guess I'm going to go hard on why I feel the lyrics are great and good across these songs. And whenever we get to the album, we'll see how the rest of that goes, and if anything like drops back to the last to the rest of their career really in terms of the main drops. But yeah, it's a strong start, and it really fills in with a lot of that stuff. And if we go on to the next bit now with the next part of the verse, like this is where like it really like It's only a one word mention really, but like that like brought it to mind at first. But like whenever I look at the whole thing, it is like it just suits that entire era of 2005, which I'll explain in a second. So yeah, the demon stuff, like like obviously that is like an easy link to um Deep Bass Masons, Grog, and what do you call it? P Candle, or Burning Bandits, slash the original Exopolitics, and the demons involved in that instead of Lazitas and all that. But like just the materialized in me and can't fight them, they're taking control and all that, and the mention of the demons, like really just shows like a lot of that era of Muse. A lot of the guitar stuff as well sounds like Stockholm. I will talk about that in a second because we're getting up to the point that I want to make about the production on this song versus older stuff. But to keep with the lyrical theme for now before we move on, just yeah, like this entire first verse feels like it was birthed in 2005. And if Matt came up and was like, "Oh yeah, well I actually wrote this song in 2005 and just have like rejigged it to today," I'd be like, "Oh yeah, I can see that. Maybe that's why this feels so old." Like, and that is a really good thing to keep in touch with. That era of Muse is where I jumped in. It's pretty much around 19 years to the day, actually, because it was the 21st of July, I believe, 2003, that Time Is Running Out debuted on Radio 1, which is what got me into Muse properly. So we're basically looking at me going into my 20th year now. And so like that absolution into Black Hole's era is like my onboarding with Muse, and we're like everything's new and exciting and wondrous, and they were doing some legitimately great stuff, and Matt had some really interesting takes on lyrics and the world, and I really think the pandemic has helped Matt get back to that. He's not like he's not just being like, oh well, here's a political song for the sake of it, as that's still a bit rough and harsh to say, but it felt close to that. Again, it feels a real earnest to these lyrics, and it feels like something like come from a deeper place, and just like, well, here's an album about like military control and all that. So I guess I'll include it with some of my usual political themes that I used to do. Whereas this feels like maybe something like a younger Matt would have done, which is having lyrics that he feels heavily about. And how could you not feel over the last 2 years? So I really think the pandemic is and all the bullshit in the world, and Trump and the riots and protests and all the crap that has been going on has really unlocked something in Matt that I've just not seen forever, and that is really exciting. That's really exciting. I cannot wait to see where the rest of this album goes. This is really, really beginning to feel a lot like the Absolution and Black Hole's era in terms of my hopes for the album and the tour and where it's all going. We'll get on to gigging in a bit because I've actually been to 2 Muse gigs since the last time I talked about Muse on here. So there's that to talk about too, and obviously watched a lot of the 3 or 4 of the festivals over the summer. But having something like that hit again with Matt, like clearly having an angle that he wants to push, and it doesn't just feel like Muse by numbers. That this actually feels like Matt touching something with his soul again. Like this is so good, and I like for that with 4 songs, and I know it's been a joke before where people are like, like, oh, Matt has said that this song is a sequel to this or that, and like the Handlers is like touches on showbiz, where it like kind of did a bit, but like it wasn't like too deep. I feel a lot of the stuff that's going on with these songs like touch a lot back to the musical styles of older Muse, mixed with some new stuff, because of like maybe even unintentionally, maybe subconsciously it's just going that way because like it just works with what Matt is going for. So if he's feeling the same way he felt in 2003 to 2006 in terms of where he is with his songwriting, then maybe that is all just coming out like naturally. And that is just so exciting because that is clearly my favorite era of Muse. I've been so into black holes recently, and having a song that feels like it could have been done on the 2005 like US university tour and all this other stuff in a road test for what they were going to go for with black holes is wondrous, and I am so happy to be here. I really am. And seeing one of the people being like, this is our take on like Uprising, like maybe being wrong, and like the antithesis of what Uprising stood for, and showing the other side of it and where it can go wrong with people after what we've seen with like protests and riots over the last number of years is like a really good look at themselves. And that is like something that is, again, like it shows a real maturity from Muse. Just to talk about Will of the People for a quick second, actually. I just want to say, because I never did a video on Will of the People, I kind of wanted to eventually. I didn't want to at first because like it was like I didn't have anything too big to say about it. It would have been basically just this point off. But it was like added to whenever Matt came out and said that, oh yeah, well, you know, like these lyrics, like, you know, like they're not like pro-Trump or anything like that. No, like this is talking about like you know, this is about the January 6th stuff and all that, and how people like are spiting themselves with protests. I just want to say, how the fuck could people not notice that? I've heard people being like, you know, like, seen it typed out on Twitter, being like after that and only taking it then and not, like, okay, I kind of get the people not getting the thrown the baby out with the bathwater line from there. Kind of get it. If you haven't heard that phrase, then it's tough to get your head around at first, obviously, because you don't know what that phrase means. When it's explained to you, though, how can you not think that what it is what Matt said before Matt even said it? He called them sheeple. It's clearly critical of the people protesting. Which just leads me again to being like hypercritical of the people who criticize Muse lyrics. If you can't even like, if Mr. Subtlety himself gets one over on you with the most unsubtle way by hitting you over the head and you still don't notice it, I question your own viewpoints on Muse's lyrics. It's crazy. We had this long discussion as well about where Muse were, and I like, after Won't Stand Down and hemming and hawing over a different few things, but like as it became more clear where the album went on, even before Matt talked on anything, it's interesting that it's basically worked out exactly what I talked about with like where Matt would probably be mindset wise for writing these songs in terms of his old conspiracy life and where things have gone with that over the years and where it is now and how dangerous that can be. So having that, you know, this is my moment of my self-victory, I guess, and my chance to talk about Will of the People. That's basically all I wanted to talk about, Will of the People. So sorry for the brief interjection, I know, but consider that Will of the People talked about. But we'll get on to that a bit deeper once it comes to the release of the album and I go through the songs a bit. So yeah, what are we here to talk about? Oh yeah, Kill or Be Killed. Nice little build-up here in the pre-chorus. I mean, the lyrics here are fine. They're fine. You know, they're... Now we're back to, like, the typical, like, unsubtle Matt fare that is still decent, but, like, you know, not as good as, like, some of the other stuff that's going on. You know, it's whatever. It's like a good pre-chorus filler with you know, just a basic comment in the world. You know, how you feel whenever, like, it feels like only bad people... get the goods. Like, I guess where we're looking at in the world with like billionaires making more and more in the pandemic, they made so much more money, and like the good people, as in like, you know, like the normal working class people or whatever, are struggling, you know. Like, yeah, it's a tough going. So like, you know, it's not too deep, but you know, it's a nice lyric. Anyway, on to the chorus. Right, so we'll end it there because before we get into the second verse. So that is the first chorus and the bridge afterwards. Chorus wise, fate is driving me insane. It's forcing me to face. I must kill or be killed. People are going to link that a lot to Glorious because of faith, and all that and that kind of stuff, which is fair, I get it. It doesn't really make sense considering it's fate versus faith, but I get what people are going at whenever they have been trying to link that over the last 6-7 weeks since the live version got out there. It's solid lyrics. It's fine. It's really evoking that whole thing again of you feel helpless and that is can have your anger rise to a point where you feel that the only choice is violence to change things, or to push yourself forward and to try and get what you deserve for being good, but you're hypocritically becoming bad by doing a whole kill or be killed attitude. And it's a look at that. That's what this song is. It's a look at being the mindset of kill or be killed. Muse have talked about this a bit on Twitter, with talking about Paul McCartney and that the lyrics were inspired by Live and Let Die, and the bad side of that kind of attitude, where if you take it too far or whatever, it's something like the tweet said, paraphrasing dramatically, but yeah, something like that. So quickly moving on from that part into the post-chorus stuff. Guitar-wise, this sounds fucking great. And I brought up Stockholm Syndrome on my Twitter earlier, so the reason I thought of that is it feels like with the extra synth stuff going on over that and all that, and I want to talk about the arpeggios in the chorus in a minute, so I need to remind myself of that. But guitar-wise, having the extra computerized sound, it reminded me a lot of what Matt was going for with trying to be Stockholm Syndrome, and how that was supposed to be based around if a computer made a guitar riff and a solo and all that. And production-wise, this sounds so good. This sounds so full of life. I've seen people talk about it being overproduced. I saw one Muse fan account being this just feels to paraphrase sterile, something like that, just basically lifeless and overproduced. Strongly disagree. This is the most life being breathed into a Muse song that I can think of. This whole album has that in droves. Maybe the soundstage on Isolated System is the last one I can think of, or the Guitar and Supremacy sounded pretty good. A lot of the Second Law stuff sounded really good for a solid, earthy, livened instrumentation across the album. But this here sounds so good, and I just keep imagining what Absolution would be like if it had this sort of production levels. You've got the drums in the background. Dom's drums in this song sound so good. I already said whenever Will of the People released that sounded the chorus of Will of the People has the best sounding drums that Dom has ever recorded. I'm not saying it's technically the best. I'm saying it just sounds so good. And the work they put into getting that just sounds so good where it's placed in the mix. And there's just such a clarity to it, and just it just feels like you're right there with Dom slamming into your head. And even more so on the snare snap on this song sounds so good, and it's been something I've been dying for from Muse for forever. It was helped a bit with the 20th anniversary release with Newborn, and the drums are very similar in this through the verses and that to Newborn. But that snare sap is so much more satisfying in this than it was in Newborn on the original Origin. Muse were often very muddled and muddied and ruined themselves with the production and how everything sounded so weak and dull. And what I would call very heavily both over and underproduced, with how Stockholm sounded between the guitars and the drums and all that, versus this, which just feels so full of life. And it's not about loudness. If we wanted to, if that was the case, then Black Holes would win out. But it's got a solid mix to it. Could it be improved? Of course. Nothing's perfect, and it's getting to a point where it's more subjective, like where I like want to place things around and like change the mix for my own liking and put like guitar parts here and and drums there and all that. But like it's the closest Muse have got to being where I want them to be with a studio production, and that has me so excited as well. And it's a lot of what I loved about the 20th anniversary remix of Origin, and I feel that they've really like taken on board a lot of what they were missing. I don't know whether they spent an extensive time listening to their old back catalog and other music. I know Bing has had not listening to like heavier stuff, so I don't know whether like Muse have realized how lackluster a lot of their older recordings are. So having that fixed now is very exciting, because maybe now we can actually reach peak Studio Muse, and I think this is peak Studio Muse, this album so far, and that is really great. The arpeggios in the chorus sound great in the background. I would change the mix on them a bit and make them a bit clearer, but like they're probably the worst part for me. But like that's probably artistic choice rather than like being anything like awkward in the production process compared to what I would have said like basically every other Muse album that wasn't the Second Law. The vocals as well, production wise, sound so clear. Actually, a lot of the vocal placement on the soundstage reminds me a lot of In Your World, and how there's like a disconnect between the vocals and the clarity on those, or like where they're placed in the mix versus the instrumentation, but not done in a way that seems awkward. It feels very deliberate, and that could be like we'll get to in the next verse why that might be, if that was an artistic choice, but I feel it works anyway, and I don't hate it, just like I didn't hate the vocal mix in Your World. There is a distortion to Matt's vocals as well, which listen out for in the second verse, if you haven't noticed already, that I'm not the biggest fan of, but again, like it feels more personal choice than like hating on things directly, because it's not like it's not overbearing. So yeah, let's go on to verse 2 then. Right, so yeah, like we've got like the harmonies going on here, and how it feels like a very Black Holes, I would say, because it feels a lot closer to like what you get in Soldier's Poem and some of the Assassin stuff with the Barbershop Quartet kind of thing. So again, it feels very old Muse and not something they've really done in a while. That particular style of harmonizing in the studio feels like, again, a relic from Muse long past. So that's exciting too. There's probably been like a couple of songs I'm overlooking right now because I'm just so biased towards the older stuff right now, towards that mid-noughties era. But that's how it feels to me on first listen. You disagree? I'd love to hear it in the comments, or if any other points where you feel it's even more similar. Like, feel free to comment away. I feel I'm perfect, but like, feel free to try and knock me down a peg or two. It's not going to work. So like this lyric I'm not too sure on, and it's one of me not too sure on in terms of like how I feel about it since the original live version was out there, and since watching that first live show live from Rock Am Ring on the interwebs. Tries so hard to spread love, but she prefers it when I assert control. I mean, it's not that it sits out too much from the overall theme that they're going for with the whole killer be killed attitude, and the protagonist like losing their like composure and I guess control over themselves and moving forward. So I guess like you could say the she is like anything. The she could be like society at large, capitalism. There's a lot of different places it could be. Let the she is like the she is the actors that are maybe benefiting off the increasing anger in the world and the mindless angst that can come with that, and maybe taking advantage of people, similar to what we had with in compliance, with people taking advantage of those stricken out alone and all that, and and the people, the vulnerable people. So like it could be that, or it could be like their own mindset about the kill or be killed stuff. So like asserting control is like satisfying your own, I guess, that anger for change, and to fight back against the world that is unfair to you. On to the next chorus. Right, I really like this. I really like this chorus. Just the hopes and dreams erased. That was one of my standout moments from the first live play as well, and I stuck there. And so fate has brought us here to face our hopes and dreams erased, either kill or be killed. I find that to be a lot better than the previous chorus. I think that is like a real peak and is up there with some of Matt's best lyrics. It fits in with like hopes and dreams. You've got like a lot of mention of hopes and dreams or stuff like that with like Muse stuff from any era basically, but again a lot of like Butterflies and Starlight and stuff like that. So again, fits into that era what we're talking about. So like maybe that part is dead, and like it's just you're wrapped up in your own anger that you like that's all gone. You just see no hope, and you're getting out there, and it maybe like another like another like the opposite feeling that was portrayed in Starlight and some of the stuff like Butterflies and that. So like this keeps adding into what I mentioned before about One Stand Down and compliance and all that, and Matt self-reflecting possibly on his conspiracy past. There's a lot of things that point towards stuff he said in previous albums, and obviously we've had Wit of the People now and him talking about it being like the opposite to Uprising. It a lot of this does feel like a self-reflection and talking about like maybe where like this is Matt like, okay, I was wrong here, things are different now, or I feel a bit different here, or this is what I feel now compared to the past today, but what I've seen in the past 15 to 20 years. So having Matt self-reflecting is probably really helping with where we are with the lyrics and what I've talked about with did they not show up? Well, whatever. What I've talked about with professional here. What I've talked about with where Muse are. What I've talked about with Matt and how he appears to be writing this album. It makes sense to me, and it that's a really cool way to look at things, and it adds to that personal nature of this album and why it feels so earnest and why it feels like they're really going like that. Matt is really like living this, and it feels like there's a lot more being put into it emotionally from Matt, and vocally it feels a lot grounded. I would say that probably this is the most emotional stuff I've heard from Matt in terms of like just like this groundedness since like maybe some of the parts are like Dead Inside. And that went off the rails towards the end with some of the lyrics and all that, but with how that sounded and just the raw emotion and all that, like that comes across in all of these songs so far. Whether it be the sarcasm of Will of the People and the general irony compared to like actual panic of that can be taken from Compliance, Won't Stand Down, or this, or I guess the Steel included with Won't Stand Down too. So that's cool. That's really cool. Next cool bit though. Right, before we get on to the guitar solo, that little bridge is so fucking cool. I love that this death girl is going war. He's really leaning off his Bing listening to Slipknot stuff with all this kind of thing, as if that wasn't obvious. Them playing Duality over the summer, but that's again pretty neat. I like that the studio version has all the yeah. We're gonna get more yas in a bit, but like I don't know. I burst out laughing hearing those at Rocket Arm Ring, and having that in the studio version, have that be the way it was always intended to be. It's just fucking great. It just adds like a little tinge of weirdness to the song, and it's very endearing. And I'm loving Matt being weird right now. It's ended up with him playing a fucking glove live, and a bunch of yas in a song. So yas, Matt slay. Speaking of slaying, great tap solo. Probably the best tap solo Matt has ever done. It reminds me a lot of Kiss, actually, along with like your typical heavy metal prog stuff. Like it's all gonna fit in there, but like I don't know, there's something about the guitar tone and just the way it works that reminds me a lot of Kiss. So that's neat. That's neat. It sounded really good. It looks good live. It sounds good. It certainly fits the frantic feel that's growing with the song and the protagonist's pain and anguish and that angst that I've mentioned about 15 million times so far. That's neat. It's really neat. Where's that Bender gif again of him taking a picture and just saying neat? It's neat. And I mean that sincerely. It's neat. Muse are being neat. Alright, so not being an instrumentalist and all that, and not knowing shit about anything, if that I can't tell whether that's like a whammy or like just like synth stuff being played or whatever, but the thing that it reminds me of is Stockholm Syndrome and the phasing noises that would be at the end of that live at like 2004. So again, fitting into that era, it just makes me think of nothing but that noise, and like particularly the Earl's Court Pro Shot or Pro Audio from the XFM broadcast. I guess the Pro Shot, because I think even though they tightened down the post Stockholm riffage a bit, I'm pretty sure you can still hear the phasing noises at the end of that on the Absolution Tour DVD. But it just sounds exactly like that. So that's pretty cool. It's pretty cool that that's there. I wonder if that's intentional. Again, I've already mentioned like the link that I feel with a lot of the guitar stuff in Stockholm Syndrome and that. So like, I wonder if there is something there. I don't know. Probably not, but it's a thing I noticed. Neat, right? It's driving him insane still. So yeah, just that same first chorus again, leading into the closing out riffs. I love having this build again, as if it's like the cycle of like angst and the kill or be killed stuff. So like you're going full circle and coming back to where you were at the start of the song, and that's just like, and it's like the vicious cycle. Not to be confused with Jim Ryan's virtuous cycle, but the vicious cycle of where things are in the protagonist's head, and the vicious cycle of like where things are being carried out now, where the divide in the world and the general hopelessness is just leading to this constant feeling of frustration and stress for everybody except for those benefiting. The one that prefers it when you assert control. pausing it here, I love the sound of the growing synths in the background that are going to lead into the outro for the song. Just them increasing over that riff at the end for like almost like a reflective bit or a refrain at the end is really cool. And it's one of my favorite parts of the live part, and especially with the later pro shots that have included a lot more of that noise and the electronic noises going throughout the song. It's terrific. The song actually started repeating because I still got it on full repeat. So ignore the sound of the siren coming again. That's not the end of the song. The end of the song is the synth dying out with the guitar having like fully gone, and whether that's like the protagonist realizing like shit is it's just fucked, doing something wrong, or just giving up, or just that refrain for like this is just a cycle of where things are going forever right now, and something needs to change. It's a really cool ending. I prefer the live version with Matt's like extra guitar bit, like him doing like the yeah 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 bit again on the guitar, because a bit more like sadder, a bit more reflective, as I keep mentioning. It's one of my words of the day apparently, or words of the album, with the way I've been talking about it in every single podcasty style thing so far. But it's a really cool ending. It's neat. I'm gonna keep saying neat now because neat is just stuck in my head, but. I really like the ending. I really like what they did with the studio version. There's a couple of bits from the live version that I prefer. There's a lot from the studio version that I prefer to the live version. It's a very special song. Compliance is one of my favorite songs of all time now, and it's been 3 to 4 months since that released, and I don't think that's changing. I love Compliance. It holds a very special place in my heart. The lyrics have grown on me even more, and I was already high in them before, and everything about Compliance I love to bits. This is going to be at least an Assassin. This is right there with Assassin. It's above Won't Stand Down, but not by much. I love Won't Stand Down a lot. One of the People is a bit further down, but it's a really good, high quality top half Muse song still. And that being the worst of the lot so far is amazing. I never expected it. But Kill or Be Killed is a very special song. Muse are working wonders. I had listened to the leak for a few hours before 3 o'clock. I'd started listening to the leak since about like 6:30, 7 this morning. Seeing as people were able to not scrub's the wrong word, but like shave the audio from the YouTube servers, it seems, for the premiere being set up. And even coming up to 3 o'clock, despite me listening to it like maybe about like 20 times before that, I was still so excited for 3 o'clock to come, because it's just like I'm going to get to hear the higher quality version. It's not 128 kilobit per second rip from a Google server. I'm going to hear it like at least a 320 kilobit per second, and then hearing the FLAC. And I was so excited because this just feels special. And this feeling I have with Muse right now, I can't describe. It's not like several songs into an album, I can't think of an album since Absolution that I've been this excited about. Hearing 4 songs in before the thing releases. Black Holes was different, I think, because I liked Starlight, but I wasn't completely as receptive to it. I've been receptive to all these songs so far. Receptive is a fucking understatement for how I felt about these songs. And it means the world to me that I have that feeling back, because this feels like starting out with Muse all over again. And that is let me just switch this back now that we finished with the lyrics. That is something I really thought I would never have with this band ever again. Even whenever I was like high on parts of Simi T in the run up to release after the Dark Side, I'd already hated Dig Down. I greatly disliked Something Human. Thought Contagion was a grower that I eventually dropped off a lot with, and then The Dark Side was like, oh yeah, this is one of my favorite Muse songs of all time. With Drones, Dead Inside was great. I didn't love it at first. It was one of those where I tilted my head at it at release. I really loved Reapers after hearing it in Belfast, being the first ears to hear it outside of the band and whatever their entourage. Psycho was great, going back to The Second Law. Madness, I didn't like the lyrics as much towards the end of the song, which threw me off. The Resistance, then, I thought it was alright. No, The Resistance is a confusing time for me. I liked United States of Eurasia, even though I thought it was like a this is silly bit at times. So I didn't get like that emotional attachment to it. So I think this is the thing. Like, then you go back to Black Holes, and again, like Starlight kind of broke that a bit. Supermassive was great, but I didn't have an emotional attachment to all the lyrics and all the songs. I'd say Supermassive is like Will of the People level. Like, I like Supermassive more musically. So Will of the People is like Supermassive, and that was like the high point before like Mappa Automatique was around for me, and Nights and that with Black Holes and Absolution. Then that's whenever I'm getting into the band and like everything's fucking amazing and new. So this is a new experience for me. 19 years later, starting my 20th year now, and a new experience of being so high on these first 4 songs and not knowing where the rest of this album could go, and kind of at the point where this could be an all-timer. It really could. Like, I'm not fucking overstating that at all for myself. Songs Come and Go and Fall Down. Blockades I really enjoyed, but that I enjoyed heavily musically. I never, like, lyrically it's whatever. This is a lot deeper. Like, Killer Be Killed feels like Blockades turned up to like 500 with like Matt actually fucking hooking himself into the song for a change and not just filling in a load of shit just for the hell of it. And then Compliance being their best pop song. Compliance is their best pop song. And it's the best song they've ever done with the mix of political fear and conspiracy fear into pop. It's their best pop song. I will hear no different. Hearing it live twice in London and seeing how it's improved over the summer as well. And just that song makes me so happy. And also just, like the way I talked about the fear of the lyrics and all that, and how Matt has like did a really good job with pushing forward that absolute fucking rottenness of people that take advantage of those who are in a vulnerable mental state over the world and have hooked into conspiracies and all that. Compliance is so fucking good. It is so fucking good. Muse hit something with that, like they did, and they hit something with this, and Won't Stand Down is a really fucking good rock song. It's really fucking fun, and it's really fucking gets you going, and like to have minimum of 2 really fucking good songs, and then 2 like very heavily emotionally songs, and like emotionally attached to Won't Stand Down as well from the bullying stuff that Matt has talked about and all that. So like, and then I'm very heavily attached to Will of the People just for Matt being willing to go back on a lot of his own old points of view and point towards where the world is and where he was wrong. Like that is very endearing and hooks me to that song too. So like, these are 4 songs that show a lot of progression from Muse in every facet. From production to lyrics to their musical talents to holding themselves back at the right points and pushing themselves. So you've got the song lengths not going overboard. Killer Be Killed is the closest to that so far, being at like 5 minutes, and I think it's the longest song on the album. But even this feels like Muse would have added like another 2 minutes of it in the last few albums, an unnecessary 2 minutes that it didn't need. Like if it had been like a Psycho, we probably would have had like another round off the guitar at the end, or another 2 rounds of the guitar at the end, or another round in the middle, or another version, or another push with the chorus, and same with Pressure and all that. Like it just feels like Muse have learned so much from their back catalogue and where they went wrong, and they're like, right, okay, let's keep it tight. Let's just do what we do and tighten up a bit. and adding in a lot more of that real feel from the last couple of years. It's just working wonders, and I don't know what to do with myself, because like this is just I just don't. If there's no like if there's no like tremendous clangor on this album, or like an overly silly song like I Belong to You or something like that, that I just end up laughing at it and going along with it, but I don't really like get into it. That I like it, but I don't like take it to my heart for any particular reason, whether it be musically, lyrically, whatever. Any of these reasons I could have for like why my top 10 is so varied between like Bliss, Map to Supermassive and Isolated System and all that, like there are a lot of reasons to love Muse songs, and to have four of these songs so far, to have that attitude, where the fuck is this album going? And that they are reined in and so tight about it, like this really could be something special. This feels like a special era as it is. The gigs have seemed awesome. The set lists have been repetitive, but like they're in a good spot. The gallery being played like in London and over the summer, and then bringing back stuff like Niche again. Like, there's just something going on with this band that I just love to bits right now. And the last time I felt like this was like the Black Holes era, coming off Absolution and watching the Reading 2006 performance and just being in absolute fucking awe at how well placed everything was. It feels like that festival tour this summer, and I hope this album tour ends up the same, because now that I'm hooked in, I need a good tour. I need something that I can be attached to. I can't have another 2013 stadium tour. I'm probably setting myself up for a fall, and that's fine. It's not like it's like fucking like gonna emotionally break me. It's gonna be disappointing, yeah, if it doesn't like end up in a good spot that suits me, but it's gonna be whatever. I've got a metric gig to look forward to in January, which is gonna mean the absolute fucking world to me too. There's so much going on in life, so it's not like I'm talking about like this is like Muse have to do list. They can do whatever, but for me, I want the tours of the good tours, like the arena tour for the Second Law, or like the stadium tour for the Resistance, or the Black Hole stuff and Absolution stuff in general, except for how 2007 sound, but we don't talk about that. I hope Muse end up at that point again and do a good mix of stuff throughout the next couple of years, because like it deserves to be special after the last couple of years too, for everyone, including the band themselves. They deserve some love, and I hope that they are in a point where they're gonna get it. And I hope the tour works great. I'm excited to see where the rest of this album goes. I will talk about it more whenever it comes out. I really enjoyed my 2 gigs in London. A lot. They're like really high points in my life. It didn't have like certain emotional connections like say Marley Park, Ulster Hall, or Wembley 2010 had, but they're still really special, and they're up there. Really fun, and it really felt like that test run for where we're going. So like this is like Muse have that chance now to to hook me in completely and not let me go, and I want that. I do. It's why I got so emotional over Killer Be Killed and how hooked I am on this stuff, because this has been missing for a bit with this band, and it used to be that there was no other bands that hook me like that, but there are certainly very, very few. I can count them all on one hand about bands that make me feel that way, like this right now, and that's very special, and I treasure it completely. So wherever this album goes, I hope it's good. I do, obviously. Hope it's good for me, selfishly. What more can I hope for? Hope it's good for me, and I hope people like it. Like I don't need other people to like it for my own sake. Like I'm strong enough in my own opinion. I know what I love. I know what I hate. I know where I stand on everything, and I don't give a flying fuck if this ends up being my number one album and nobody else likes it. Like it's still gonna be my number one album. I don't give a fuck what anyone thinks for my own sake. I just want the community and musers to like Just be in a happy spot. We should all be in a happy spot. So hopefully everyone can find something from this album that they can really love and come out of it treasuring Muse more for the current era after this album. Right, anyway, that's me talking a bit too much now. Again, you know, I wing it. I don't feel a script works for this with the emotional output I put into this. We're coming up in the hour now for the recording, so I want to get this up. But yeah, that is another hour of me talking absolute bollocks and probably being tangentially all over the place, but that's what you get. That's where the feels come from. So I'm not trying to do like some sort of super fucking deep educational analytical scientific point or essay. I just wanted to just wanted to talk. Right. Back in a while then. Maybe about 5-6 weeks for the album. We'll see if any song comes out before then. I'll probably leave it for the album talk. Probably. Right. That'll be about 10 hours long. Bye then.